everybody, and welcome. My name is Dr. Joanne Margaret Hines Hunter, and I'm a seasoned early childhood educator, author, professional development specialist, trainer, and consultant. I was overjoyed when I received the invitation from Virginia's Association for Educating Young Children to present its first ever vlog. It's only 10 minutes long because it is a teaser for the online conference that's coming up in March 11th through the 13th. Now, my presentation is entitled Making Manipulatives for Mindful Movement, which will be presented on March 13th between 1:45 and 2:45 p.m., although it will be available to you for 2 weeks after the conference, so please register. Let's get started with Making Mindful Manipulatives, Mindful Movement. I hear teachers every day talk about how COVID has affected their childhoods, the early childhood schools, home centers, and everyone is struggling to keep children safe while trying to engage them in developmentally appropriate physical activity programs, also known as DAPAP. Early childhood teachers have learned how hard it is to keep children socially distanced from one another, keep equipment clean, have one piece of equipment for each child to prevent sharing. Now, teachers trying to create a developmentally appropriate program for home use have a hard time finding activities requiring either little or no equipment. And not all families have or have access to activity equipment. And whatever equipment they may have may not be safely working order. So therefore, children are not getting quality physical education or physical activity that are developmentally appropriate in the school or movement program that they're in. And that includes stability, locomotor, and manipulative skills that are all listed in Shape America's National Guidelines for Children from Birth to Age 5 that was been published in 2020. So the solution is with you right now. You're going to and seeing some of the sessions here today, and it will be providing you with developmentally appropriate equipment ideas known as homemade equipment made from items that are from around the home. And that means zero to low cost materials. And that means that equipment ideas other family members can participate in. They can make it with their child. They can then all access that equipment and then play together as a family, which I know sometimes they don't do. So this makes them able to do that. And also the games and activities that you're going to be looked at today that accompany equipment can be performed in small spaces if needed or outside. When you go to March's session, when you will register for that, you will receive a comprehensive handout that will include not only the activities that we see today, but it will be more in-depth. It will also include infant and toddler activities, motor development, just real-time equipment playing. We're going to be doing a lot of that, sharing ideas. It's going to be awesome. So you really need to hang on and do that. So looking at everybody's favorite piece of equipment is the ball, right? So the ball is really great because it develops eye-hand, eye-foot coordination. There's fine motor coordination involved with that. And it also gets students ready for sport and game playing skills. Now, the balls that I'm going to be talking about in the session in March are going to be soft and non-threatening, meaning that children won't turn their heads, right? How many times do we get this? Because they're so afraid that they're going to be hit in the face, and that defeats the problem. So everything is going to be soft and fun to play with. Today, we're going to be talking about the paper ball. Now, the paper ball can be made, of course, so we're talking about paper, whether you want to use a good piece of paper or ones that come in the mail. Great, you're going to throw that away anyway, Mom and Dad. Let's use it. No cost equipment. We also can use newspapers as paper balls as well as magazines. All you need to do is crumble that piece of paper or magazine or newspaper, and you have a ball, but you need to really tighten that ball up. Sometimes that's not good enough. You may need to layer that piece of paper a number of times, or better yet, there are so many cool different tapes that are out there, whether it be masking tape or duct tape. They come in crazy colors. That's fantastic to do that, just to give it weight, because some of the activities may need that ball to travel a little further, and that's exactly what you get. So that's fantastic to create the different type of balls and give it different colors that are then unique to the child as well, or whatever that the parents are able to afford. When you're looking at the paper balls, they're really cool because they can be integrated into all sorts of different STEM activities. So not only are you looking at physical activities, but now you can integrate things like STEM or STEAM. Here they can make their own paper. Woo! Not going into how to make your own paper, but you can make your own paper. Then they can make their own paper balls. If that's too much for you, that's great. We can integrate art into it, where they can then use paint and blot and make their own colored paper, which let that dry first, and then crumple it up, and now they have their own paper ball. Or be your little Rembrandts and use tape. So now they are using fine motor skills as they rip tape and put it on their paper and then paint away. So many different fun activities, different activities, just to make a paper ball. So all of that is you can explore. And of course, it looks great. Everybody has their own individual ball that they are playing with. That's theirs. Again, they're not sharing equipment. They could take that ball, use it at home. They could take that ball, bring it to school. It's theirs. Nobody else touches it. That's fantastic. And if all else fails and you don't want to do all of that and you just want to give them regular old colored papers, each one has a different color and they remember that, then again, that's up to you. Paper balls. Also, games to play with paper balls. So the first one up is a fun activity called the spider web. Of course, this can be played anytime. Halloween is probably more appropriate, but of course, you can make it into anything. This could be not even just spider web. It's kind of neat because what you're going to be doing is throwing the balls at the spider web, trying to get it to stick, but it could also be laser beams. And just, again, you're just limited to whatever your creativity yields at this point in time, which could be probably not so good at this point, which is why I'm giving you some ideas. So here's the web. Here, it's between furniture pieces, but you can also do it in between the door frames. And so be creative using just, tape. These are painter's tape. You definitely want to use painter's tape because that comes off the walls and furniture more easily, and it doesn't take the paint off. If you use things like duct tape, sure, they're a little stickier. However, that means paint will come off parents' walls and so on, and they may not like you for that. So use painter tape or frog's tape. That makes it a lot easier. And as you see in that picture on the far right, that the little girl is throwing, and it's different colors even of that tape. So you can be creative. And again, the idea here is for the children to stand close, and they could throw it trying to get those paper balls to stick. After as many balls as it is that you are making or that they have, and they throw it and it sticks, they then retrieve it. And then they can either stay at the same place and throw it, or you can then make it a little harder and say take a couple of steps back and then throw it from a further distance. Again, motor development is something that we're going to be talking about in March. Just giving you some ideas here. Another game is called Clean Up Your Room. Now, some of you may be familiar with this game. You're scattering balls on the general space, and children and or with the parents, again, all of these activities are things parents can do with the children too, but you want to focus on the child, will then pick up the paper balls that are scattered throughout and put them in different receptacles, whether that be a garbage can or a plastic bag, or even mix it up a little bit and put them in vertical boxes that are hanging up on the wall. That's fantastic. Now you're working fine motor skills, or you could have them practice throwing it. But the idea is to clean up the room and picking it up, putting it in receptacles. You can also then integrate the colors so that a red ball will go into a red receptacle and an orange ball goes into the orange receptacle. Again, all sorts of different ideas that you can do. Also, when you're looking at it, then it could be another game that's played versus one another. So the first one was individual activity. The second one is against somebody. And here you then set up a boundary where then balls are put on equal sides. So you have the same amount of balls. And on the teacher's signal go, or the parent saying go, the idea is to throw the ball to the other side, whether it's throwing underhand, overhand, or rolling the ball, doesn't matter. You choose. It's fun. But the idea is to try to get the ball to the other side. And the winner is the one with the fewest amount of paper balls on his or her side. So they're practicing throwing, they're moving, you can do, they're paper balls, so they're not going to hurt anything, and you can easily set up because they're not going to go anywhere, which is also great. They can throw it, they can kick it. It's not like a regular ball that's going to roll on forever. It only has so much momentum. So paper balls are fantastic. Another great idea are can you ideas. And these can you ideas also act as assessments. So here, the parent, child, or the teacher, and this is done either with the smiley faces, they have check marks or X's, and pictures with words. So your early readers then can do it, and if they don't read, they can follow the pictures. So can you do this? Yes, I can. Not so much. Or I need more time in doing this particular activity of underhand rolling, overhand, catching, whatever it is with using that paper ball. And so you can come up with those activities, and this is a great piece of assessment that you can do with it. And doing different challenges, which we'll talk about in just a minute, when we talk about, the racket. Making little rackets for the children to use is a great way of having the students develop their eye-hand coordination. They then can include better striking skills, teamwork, as well as getting ready for other sports and games as they get older. Now, rackets can be made of all sorts of different things. For young children, you want to stick with either paper plates, plastic plates, or styrofoam plates. And all of them can use a handle that includes tongue depressors or rulers, or even take a foam noodle and put it in half and tape the bottom of it to create a handle. Again, we'll be talking about other ideas too in March. But this will get you started on the different types of rackets, and you can incorporate that. Now, some of the things that you can also incorporate with the rackets is they can draw on the rackets, obviously, or give them things to do, like cutting out things like, hey, my name is Joe. What starts with the letter J? Okay, a joker. O is for orange. E, elephant. Now I make my own personalized racket. So now you know this is Joe's racket. And, of course, you have to sit there and think if you're in class and doing that, if they're bringing those in. But at home, now you have them doing something, working fine motor with their scissors, creating their own rackets they can be proud of, and drawing or cutting out. R is for racket. What other words start with R? And cutting and gluing on that. Again, endless activities that you can do while they're also creating and doing things with their racket. Now, some students, when you're using the racket, of course, they're not so sturdy. So you want to be careful. Paper balls might be okay, but sometimes, again, if you're using that tape, it might get a little heavy. So you want to use a balloon, or since some students are allergic to balloons, using non-latex gloves. Usually, if you ask a doctor, can I have some? Borrowing, you're not getting it back, but can I have some latex balloons? Non-latex balloons, the gloves, they'll be able to give them to you. And what you also might want to do is tether them, whether it be a balloon or the non-latex glove, to the racket somehow, this way to a long string. This way when they hit it, especially young children, and they hit it too far and you're in a small space, they don't have to run after it. This way it stayed to the racket. And so they can either keep hitting it if you put it on a shorter string, or longer string gives them a little bit more space to do that, but it also allows them that they don't have to keep chasing after that balloon or the glove to then participate in more activities, which is really neat. We were talking about more ideas in terms of can you activities. This is great can you activities here. Can you use your right hand? Can you use your left hand? How many times in a row can you do? Can you strike it, touch the ground? All of these things. Same thing with the paper ball. Can you use your hand to either pop it up? Can you throw it up and catch it? All sorts of different can you activities. But I wanted to show you some of the things in verbiage. What can they do rather than just showing the picture? All of these can be made in picture forms. Great assessment pieces. You can also have the children use a net if you want, if they're playing against their parent. Also social distancing, they're apart from each other. And as they are playing, let it bounce, they're further apart. And again, here you can see it's just stacks of waste baskets or things and a net. But you don't have to do that. You can also just put them in their own little box and say, these are your boundaries. Stay within this boundary. Make sure that it's visual for them. Again, what's developmentally appropriate for each different child? If they are able to notice those are the boundaries. For a 3-year-old, probably putting them, here's your boundary, stay here, is not going to work. So be aware of all of that too. So enclosure. Just to remind you, these last 10 minutes, we were talking about how to use different equipment, homemade equipment that costs zero or very low cost, things that they can find, the parents can find in the home. The parents can make their own as well as other siblings so that they can all participate in these activities at home, limited space. They could take the equipment, bring it to school. This way you don't have to worry about cleaning equipment. Yay! One less thing you have to do. They're developmentally appropriate activities with all of this equipment, and there are so much more that I have to show you. Oh my gosh, woo! It's crazy. Different modifications, assessment, interdisciplinary activities to do with them. It's just wonderful. Want you to be active. Want the children to be active. I want them to be developmentally appropriate. And in March, as I said, all the different things that we're going to be talking about. I don't want you to get fooled with a lot of things that are out there. There's equipment companies and software companies saying, here's stuff I want you to take a look at. It's for free. A lot of it is not developmentally appropriate. They don't have standards. They don't have assessments. And it's not really good for the kids. So I want you to be aware of that. And also to remember this blog. There's going to be many other vlogs that are going to be coming up with other presenters from March, and mine in particular will be on the 13th of March, making the mindful movement activities that will come with a handout. If you have any questions, you can please get in touch with me with drjoanne_hunter@yahoo.com. Have a beautiful and safe day. Thank you, everybody. Bye.